took probably a sabbatical for a month and a half. Both TJ and I had some family affairs that were going on dealing with loss. So I think it was rightfully so that we took a break for a while. But I am truly excited to introduce Melissa Muganzo, who is a fabulous entrepreneur and a huge impact on our community here in Sacramento. I briefly am going to talk about women's issues since I am going to be 52 this year. Menopause is just wonderful, wouldn't you say? Well, you're not there yet.
I've been asking for it, actually.
But menopause and hot flashes and a lot of things that I think women's health is hugely important to talk about because there's things that women don't discuss. She has made an amazing documentary on a lot of women's issues that I'm going to open the platform for her to introduce herself and tell her amazing story. We met back in 2011 as God's dancers, I would say. La. But it has been an absolute pleasure to watch her grow, and I love what she's doing in Sacramento, and she's actually taking her documentary to other cities and states, is my understanding. So I'm going to open the floor and let her introduce herself and let you say all of the wonderful things that you're doing here in Sacramento.
Well, thank you, Dana, for having me. What's going on, everybody? My name is Melissa Muganzo Murphy. My pronouns are she, they, and sis. I'm the CEO of Muganzo Entertainment and executive producer of the Big Histo, a Black Woman Revolution. I'm an actress. I'm a humanitarian. I'm an activator. I'm a community organizer. But of all the really beautiful things that I get to be a chocolate Black girl. And that, to me, is something that I didn't realize had so much power. But now that I'm in my 30s, baby, I'm unstoppable. And I'm here to activate all that's inside of me and take others along the way with me. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to get into all the things and share resources and just have genuine conversation about what it means to navigate this cartoon we all call life.
And it is a cartoon.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think anybody can say there's a book about life of what we can do, because I can say from 2011 till now, all the change that I've gone through mentally, emotionally. We all go through different, you know, realms of our life that are challenging, are emotional, are traumatizing. But I think women, like you have said in the past, we continue to be shoved down under the mat when we are incredible, powerful women at the end of the day. And I think that it's important that we share our power and show people there's another way besides feeling bad about something that's going on with your body at the end of the day.
Truth.
And so I'm going to let you kind of tell me about your documentary and everything that you're doing with that and the message that you've provided to women so that they feel more secure about who they are. And then again, other nationalities, it's so important for everyone to learn culture. Like, I keep emphasizing that on our podcast, and TJ knows. Open your hearts to culture at the end of the day. There's so much out there that every single individual, including men, women, to learn and not be so judgmental at the end of the day, minus the judgment. Like, that's the part where we've grown into that victimization for so many years that once you learn that power to remove that, it's unstoppable for most people. And I think I've seen you just in the last couple of years, like, you're thriving.
Thank you. Thank you. Because let me tell you, this coffee is the first part of me thriving. So let me give the folks some context.
Our pots of coffee.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for saving my life this morning. I literally text her like, girl, you got coffee? You got dairy-free creamer? So let's scale back. So I grew up a creative. You know, when you get older, you start to understand the language and you understand context in your family. So I'm the daughter of immigrant parents. My father's East African from Nairobi, Kenya, and my mother's West Indian from St. Thomas. So I always grew up knowing the power that Black folks had. Like, I knew that very early. Both of my parents are multilingual. My mom speaks Spanish and English. My dad speaks 4 languages. My dad has 7 names. So I've seen so much that Black folks can do. The indigenousness in Black folks. So I was always raised to think like we're incredible people. But it wasn't until I got into these systems, right? Religious spaces, academic spaces, that thought of people of color and Black folks differently. They thought that we were laborers, that we were vigilantes, that we were docile, that we were not intelligent. And so that type of training, while they didn't use that terminology, they did it in other ways. Like, they would tell you things, you know, who do you want to work for when you get older? Instead of saying, you know, what do you feel like your gift is to the world? And I remember once I became an educator, I started reframing those questions because, you know, not every successful person has gone to school. School is not an indicator that you're a brilliant soul. But, you know, we're not taught that, because there's a capitalistic goal at the end of the day for people of color, for women identified folks, for queer and trans folks, for Black folks to be the worker bees, and for white men to always be successful at, you know, at the risk of us.
Right.
And in that, I remember starting to ask questions. And, you know, when you start asking questions, that's your brain activating itself. Like, you know, the math ain't mathing around here.
No,
you know, you're telling me this, but something is
It's not
off.
matching up.
It's not matching up. So when I was 16, I recognized that I was having really terrible periods. I mean, I'm talking about 8-9 days, cramping all the time, massive diarrhea, massive acne, massive headaches. I'm wearing overnight pads. I mean, I'm 16. I was also still a dancer, so I was a cheerleader. I was in a dance group. I had a singing group, which, looking back, that's a lot for someone that's 16. But at the time, that's just what it was, because it was wrapped in this religious setting, and so it was supported. And I remember starting to ask my family, like, does everybody have this? And their response was, well, people in your family have bad periods. And so that was supposed to be like the
answer.
That's it.
That was the narrative.
Yeah, like, oh, this is normal. So I was like, oh, well, I guess this is God's, you know, gift to all of us, bad periods.
7 days of it.
7, 8, 9.
Thank you so much, Aunt Flo.
10, right? I get to college, and, you know, I start expressing my sexuality. I become intimate with folks. And I was like, oh my gosh, the big girls use birth control. I'm a big girl now. Let me get on birth control. That's when my 9 to 10 day periods went out of control. And my longest period when I was 22 was over 6 months. And I'm talking every day. I'm talking ultra tampons, I'm talking overnight pads, and I'm changing them both on the hour, every day. That means I'm going to work, I'm going to school, I'm still performing as a dancer, I'm still going to meetings, I'm still showing up as a social person.
And functioning,
because I've normalized this pain. People talk about these pill cocktails, right? Take a Tylenol, take a Midol. You start wearing black all the time because you're having spills.
You don't want to bleed through because
that's embarrassing.
It's super embarrassing because I eventually, when I started my menopause issues, that's technically what was happening. I'm like, do I need to bring spare clothes to work?
Oh, yeah.
What is this?
You're having bags with you. You're prepared for it all. You got extra underwear. I mean, but that builds anxiety.
Absolutely.
Right? And I was already, let me tell you, I'm a heavy sweater, period. So heavy sweater on top of being anxious about that. And then how are you intimate with the partner? Right? Let's talk about trying to feel sexual or being a sexual being, navigating this, or even the partner you're with trying to support you in this, but don't know what to do because you don't know what to do.
Because you don't know what to do because you're basically flowing for 7 days and you're like, how could you even have a sexual relationship?
How are you doing that? We're laying down towels, but it's a murder scene around here. Like, let's be honest. I mean, we getting into it. You know what I'm saying? So
did someone just die?
I'm not sure. Right. I don't know. Was it me? Was it you? Is everybody?
Who just got killed?
You know?
I'm not sure.
I'm real talk. And so I remember going to my female doctor, and this is where it gets interesting. I went to my female doctor. She was maybe 32, 33, white identified, who had just had a baby. I'm talking newborn. Just got back from maternity leave. And I begged her. I said, I really want a hysterectomy. Like, I've had enough. She goes, verbatim, well, that's not going to work. Because when your husband wants to have kids and realize that you're infertile, that's going to cause you challenges. And I was like, you're advocating for an imaginary person that is not here right now, and I'm currently suffering with all of this. And I knew very early that I didn't want to have children in this way. Like, I knew very, very early. I had dated a few folks that had children and very young, and I was like, oh, no. Yes. Like, and then I wasn't excited about how children have to arrive. Like, you know, they have to come out some way. And I was just like, wow.
Not sure I could do all that.
Not all heroes wear capes. And people do this multiple times. My God.
Why?
They're brave souls. They're incredible souls. But I knew that just wasn't my way into being a parent or being motherly or giving back. So shout out to all the folks that have that very maternal feeling.
Absolutely.
Right? That
they
have the
push
capacity
a human
to
out
give
of their
birth.
hoo-ha at the end of the day. Like,
They're the dopest
numerous
people.
times.
They're dope.
I honestly, there's a reason. I think, like we've discussed, there's always a reason for everything. I never had children, but same thing. I've had incidences with doctors where they're like saying what the narrative is, and it's like, okay, again, it's our choice. You know, in my early 30s, I had cervical issues, cervical cancer issues, and then my recent aunt just passed of uterine cancer that we were unaware of her even having it. So we have to go get exams. It is so important that you advocate for yourself, which is unheard of because people don't realize I've had other things in life happen where we've had to navigate for my mother's health, my father's health, at a very early age. And so you have to be an advocate for your own health at the end of the day. Ask questions, push the doctor to do that test, which we should not have to do that.
But you know what? People don't know what that means.
They do not know what that means.
They don't know what, and I think what I've, at least in this experience, I realized that when people go to the doctor, they feel like they're advocating. But if you don't have the proper language to ask the right questions, then going to the doctor is like going to Google. Like, if you don't know what to type in the search engine, Google means nothing to you.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've learned.
And don't Google.
Google will give you all the same result. We're all going to die. Like, that's just what it is. And in reality, we all one day transition. But Google will confirm that.
Yes.
With
Google
anything
will
that you
confirm
have
it.
that.
And my doctor said, please stop Googling.
You will be done in 3 to 5 days.
I thought everything just fell out of me all at once, to be honest, because the 7-day periods and all of that was going on. I'm like, what do I have left inside me?
No, honestly. Which is why, and I'm really glad we're getting into this because I think it's going to actually help people that see this in a number of ways.
And men, because I know for me, I've been able to talk to TJ because he's like my brother at the end of the day, but someone that I was seeing, I was uncomfortable. It made me feel very insecure that I'm like, I have to share with this person what's going on down here. Like, it's not normal conversations that you have with people. And it should be. You should be able to talk about your vagina at the end of the day.
I mean, it's solid, right?
It's solid. It's there. It's not
solid.
going anywhere. Just like a man. A man has a penis. They talk about their penises at the end of the day. So I'm just like, why is that? Why we have to change the narrative and be innocent and whatever it is? It's like some men are empowered by that. And like,
well, I think what we're going to have to admit is that the world is afraid of, and let me be very honest about that. I have changed my terminology from women's health to womb health because I also want to make space for people that identify across the spectrum because all these identities are what we're
having issues with.
We're growing to get into our own. And people with it's also why I say people with the capacity to give birth. I also say, uterine trauma, womb health, because at the end of the day, it's not really about genitalia. It's about reproductive justice. It's about social justice, about making sure people feel empowered to, go to the doctor. You and the doctor are both human. And I think sometimes when we go into the doctor and we see this like white coat or these scrubs or this name tag,
they become our god.
Yeah, it's very intimidating.
Absolutely.
It's totally is very. So you're just like, dear Mr. Doctor, please be kind to me as I am not as smart as you and you are all knowing. But in reality, you know your body best. You are navigating this body best. And this body is helping you navigate through this life. So how is another person going to tell you what is supposed to be happening in your body? Absolutely. Or how you're supposed to feel or how you're supposed to identify or things that you're supposed to do in life, like a check mark, when they're not you and you're not them.
Right.
But we're not taught to think for ourselves
we're not
in that
taught
way.
To think for ourselves.
And for a lot of people, especially women identified, that's considered, what's it called? It's considered conceited. It's considered too much, aggressive, assertive. It's considered you think you're better than everybody. Women aren't supposed to do that. It's not ladylike. All these really negative, traumatizing reinforcements that suppress the voice of people that have the power to create this life. And let's be honest, Dana, the world does not move forward without a really healthy womb.
No, absolutely. Because if there's damaging and abuse and trauma going on, what's going on inside the womb,
for sure,
a child is being birthed or grown in the womb, we both know what that does in regards to trauma to a child, to an entire family situation.
And to the person carrying that child.
Absolutely. And so I think that changing the narrative is empowering. I think that it's important that, like you said, it empowers people to have the knowledge that they need at the end of the day that's been suppressed for so long.
For sure.
And when you started the documentary, I'm sure you got negative feedback, like, no, Melissa, you can't do that. Why are you doing that? I get negative feedback, like, I mean, people are like, oh my God, she just said vagina. Like, okay, but it's a word, and it's what we have. And like you said, we are also identifying with other sexual traumas that people have had to deal with, where it is genitalia at the end of the day, but people can't have these conversations. Why not?
Yeah, it's interesting. So as I navigate through this journey of my doctor telling me that, I didn't have the courage at the time to be like, first of all, girl, I'm queer. Like, ain't no man coming at any time soon. Second of all, I don't want to have children, right? Like, I have experienced, you know, various relationships, and those are confirmed for me. But I was intimidated. I was very intimidated. And so I went to a family friend who happened to be a Black nurse practitioner who was vegan and organic, and I didn't know that they had suffered with fibroids. But when I told her my symptoms, she was like, I'm gonna tell you two things. One, you have fibroids. Two, they're not gonna tell you this because you're Black, period. So you need to go on this vegan cleanse. I'm gonna tell you what to do. We're gonna shrink your fibroids naturally, and we're gonna move on. It was very clear. So in 2012, I went on this 3-month, 90-day vegan cleanse. It was very strict. I mean, and it was instant because I was suffering so bad.
Right.
I lost 25 pounds. I lost all my acne. I had no more migraines and headaches, my back pains, and I didn't cramp anymore. And she's the one that told me we're not supposed to cramp. Cramping is a sign of hormonal irregulation. But society has made money off of our pain, which is why we have Midolls, and we have warmers, and we have fuzzy warming socks, and we have period panties, and we have heating pads, right? It's like when you have for folks that, you know, navigate migraines, they don't tell you how to never have migraines again. They say, let's give you migraine medicine.
Let's give you a pill.
Right.
Pills fix everything.
Pills fix everything, right? But it's not healing, because our medical industry is not meant to heal. It's meant to sustain you as a patient. And we need to be honest too, this entire industry is built off the experimentation and sacrificing on bodies of color. Like, it's just what it is. It wouldn't be what it is without that experimentation, because they work and experiment on themselves
on a daily basis. And I think that our true probably sacrifice to that would even be COVID at the end of the day. I mean, them putting something inside all human bodies at the end of the day that is not even FDA approved when everything first happened. First of all, I don't think people realize it was emergency approved, and we won't jump down that rabbit hole. That could be a whole nother conversation. But
we're here for innovation and revelation, but at the end of the day, we have what we need to survive. And our bodies are strong enough. We're always repairing. It's like when you get a scratch, our skin can heal, and at first it looks kind of icky, but then you realize without the icky, we can't get to the healing part.
Right.
So I believe in that. And I remember going to conferences about, at the time I was saying women's health, and I would say like, hey, this is what happened to me. This is how I was able to self-regulate. And they were like, oh, really cute, but no. And then I would tell them that I'm no longer anemic, and they're like, well, you really should eat more red meat. And I would say, well, when I eat red meat, I would have terrible periods. And they're like, well, that's not actually researched or documented. I'm like, no, but I'm telling you, I'm a living, human, breathing person telling you. And they're like, that's really cute, little girl. So then I got activated and started doing these like clinical trials. And I would tell them when I removed this from my diet or removed this from my life, like this was better. And then I got frustrated because the trials are so long. I'm like, I ain't got time to be arguing with y'all for 9 months.
No.
So then I was like, I'm going to present. I am actually going to present at conferences because y'all not feeling me. And I know what I know to be true based on my own experience.
Right.
And I wish more people understood that you don't need any type of letters behind your name to be able to activate and advocate for other people.
Absolutely.
But in this life, especially with education being like this top tier thing that people feel like they all need to have, people will say, well, what credentials do you have? And if you don't have those credentials, then they'll minimize your value and your voice. And so I would go present, and you would just see the tears start flowing. And people would be like, my mother, my grandmother, my daughter, someone passed, me. I've had miscarriages. I've had negative IVF cycles. I'm bleeding right now, right? Like half of the world at this moment is menstruating and nobody's talking about it because it's the one thing where no one wants to talk about it.
Right.
But everybody is excited about new babies, which for me, I'm like, there's a disconnect, right? There's a huge disconnect because the incubator is what we're talking about. We need the incubator to be healthy,
right? And so that goes back to the whole beginning process, whereas like it's like there's one thing being talked about, but then the other thing is shamed upon.
Yeah.
Or just like us doing this today, people are go, oh my God, I can't believe they're talking about that.
Yeah, I know.
It needs to be talked about.
Well, people love talking about sex. That's exciting. People love talking about babies, but somehow the in between people don't want to talk about
what really goes on, pushing a baby out and everything out, because there's other things that happen with women when they do have children, with ripping and having to heal.
People are not honest about that.
And a lot of women don't talk about these things. And I mean, I've had personal friends where I'm like, wait, what? That ripped
There's a whole thread right now on Twitter talking about that. Yeah, there's a whole thread.
And the menstrual cycles alone, like you said, like it's embarrassing to us because you're like, oh, great, I can't wear white. I can't wear light colors.
Yeah.
I mean, now that I'm not having my cycle, which has been absolutely, truly amazing since April.
Why I can't wait? Wow.
At the end of the day, I'm like, oh, the relief, because headaches, exhaustion.
Yeah.
Like there were times in the last couple months, the exhaustion was where like, just leave me alone. I just want to sleep.
Yeah, of course. And just think about that feeling, but still having to go to work.
Right. And still getting up, going to work,
raising a
working
family.
your 8 hours, taking care of a parent, taking care of your children,
being with the partner.
And that feeling. And then being with a partner and going, okay, I can't have sexual intercourse because of what's going on. It's a whole situation. And it's like, I actually missed your documentary, which I know I will probably see it. I was bummed about not seeing it because I have heard nothing but wonderful things, especially from our personal friends that we've all been friends with from church. And just the relationships I think that we have, there's a bond that even though we're not together all the time, there is that bond of support and prayer and influence that it's like all of those women are still there no matter what, where one can be in Texas, one can be in a whole nother city, but that bond is there where we can have these open conversations because TJ and I, me being white and him being black and you being black, some people are like, well, how do you openly discuss this with them? You need to start the conversation and have the
100%.
narrative. Have the narrative. Quit, get uncomfortable. I know you got uncomfortable during this documentary.
Absolutely.
Very uncomfortable.
And you know what? So let me connect it, how I got to this. So in 2016, by 2016, go back. So I went on the vegan cleanse. Everything ended up working out. And then I was like, well, everything's good. Your girl is back. So I was out here. So I was like, oh, all that like discipline that I had put together, once the problem was resolved, I was like, oh, it's game time. So I was back living good, eating whatever, didn't care. 2016, it all came back. And at the time, I was dating my now wife, my then girlfriend. And I just remember being at the movie theaters. Okay, we went to go see Girls Trip with Jada Pinkett and Tiffany Haddish. And I was in a white dress. And I bled all at the movie theater. I'm talking like I'm in a puddle. We're there with friends. And I get up to go to the bathroom. And when I get to the bathroom, the back of my dress has this huge red. And all I thought was, the seat. Who saw me? Oh my God. And I didn't feel it.
And it should have been, am I okay? Instead of us worrying about the seat, worrying if someone else saw it.
I don't have a change of clothes.
Right.
I'm so embarrassed. So I'm rinsing out my linen dress in the movie theater, okay? Rinsing it, scrubbing it, rinsing it. Take paper towel, wipe the seat down. By the end of the movie, another puddle. Now the lights are on. I was so embarrassed. By the time we got back to house, because now I have to drive home in the car. Now I'm like, oh my God, the car seat.
Right.
Now I'm sitting at a tilt. Now I'm wrapping up the dress. And I am sobbing. And my girlfriend didn't know what to do. She was just like, I don't know, I'm gonna hold you. I don't even know, what is this?
What's going on?
What is this? And I was like, oh, I have fibroids. She was like, what is that? You know, like, what is this and what the fuck is that? Because this sucks. And I was like, you have no idea how much this sucks. And I went back to trauma. I was like, 6 months? I can't not bleed for 6 months. They won't give me a hysterectomy. They won't help me. I don't want... I was panicking. And then I remembered, her name was Susan, who told me, girl, I told you have fibroids. I told you how they're going to treat you. I told you how to heal yourself. I told you. And it was at that moment that I was like, this is how I'm going to sustain. I need to go back to what I know to be true for myself, because at the time, Western medicine had failed me.
Right.
And so I've been vegan since 2016. And I remember thinking, God, this is so hard, because at the beginning, vegan food tastes like ass. It tastes like tree bark. I'm like, y'all want me to gnaw on carrots 24 hours a fucking day? Like, that's hella rude.
I'm chewing on a leaf.
And you would go to let's go to a birthday party. People are like, oh, you want something to eat? I'm like, no, I'm vegan. They're like, we got a vegetable platter. I'm like, so y'all got ribs and I got celery? Damn. Y'all didn't think about me at all. So I have a special advocacy for vegan, which is why I have a vegan line coming out in 2025. But I remember thinking, how am I going to get the word out and sustain this for people that are like myself?
Right.
And in 2018, I decided to launch my business. I left my role of educator in 2021. But I was...
Sorry, I was going through some videos.
That's okay.
That'll be an outtake. Thank you for the music.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
Good googly muggly smuggly.
Well, for anybody out there that knows what it's like to work a full-time job and know inside of you you're meant to do other things, you'll probably feel me. So I was working a full-time job. And in 2018,
What is going on with our filming right now? I don't even know what's going on. That's okay. New edition, we're not in this process right now.
I was watching this.
I cannot with him right now.
This is what happened, y'all. I was watching this.
What happens when you're messing around with your phone and filming at the same time?
Yeah.
We keep it real at the end of the day.
Yeah, real bad. Okay. That was my cameo, Law. I'm done.
That's all right. So I filed for my business in 2018, and I knew I was going to leave my full-time job, and that feeling of like I'm ready to call out sick every day this week because I have another longing. Like, that feeling was coming up. And I decided in 2020, actually I was auditioning for a role and got denied a role. And the casting director goes, so you didn't get the part, but I want to encourage you to make a movie about something that you're passionate about, because you're over here auditioning for this like extra role, but you're definitely giving main character. And I was like, what kind of rejection is this?
That?
And in my mind, I was like, "Girl, that's a great idea, but I don't know how to make a movie. Like, you don't have a packet you want to send me via email? Like, how you gonna tell me no and then go make a movie? Yeah,
send me the plan.
Just go make a movie. All right.
And you're gonna be the main star.
Yeah, all right. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a movie, and I put out the casting call. And Dana, the story, I will never forget that. I had to get a bottle of wine because the stories were so deep. People were on breathing tubes. People were on their deathbeds. People had coded because of loss of blood. People have had 6, 7 miscarriages. People have been cut up by the doctors. One person, the doctor accidentally cut her colon. Like, I mean, the stories. I was like, my story is a cherry on top compared to
what some other women have gone
through. I mean, multiple cancers. I mean, it was so bad. Then I looked at past gender, right? Then I looked at culture, how people have never been able to talk about menstruation and people are afraid to talk about it. Then I looked at partnership, how people's partners were suffering too.
Right.
Then I looked at their children. If you are ashamed about this, how are you teaching it to your child?
Right.
And I remember when our daughter, she was 11, she was in middle school. When she was about to go to school, I had to give her this like sanitation box because of my own trauma. I was like, I'm going to give you body spray, deodorant, pads, tampons. I'm going to give you a change of underwear, and I'm going to give you this to put in your locker. right? Because during PE, you're sweating, but everybody's menstruating, everybody's going through puberty, and I just want you to be able to be like, if I need to freshen up
And identify with that.
and if I have a spill, I don't have to panic because I can go to my locker because I'm prepared. It was so
But
much.
how many other moms or dads would do that? Like, even a single father, if he lost
How do you know?
a parent, how would the father even know to do that
Yeah.
for his child at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So, like, just that education alone, like, I think with you probably doing this too, in schools, we've heard that children don't even have what they need in regards to their menstrual cycle.
And people charge for tampons and pads, which is so weird. It's very weird. I'm like,
Again, economy,
it's very weird.
making money off of the industry at the
Yeah.
end of the day, where it's like,
Because we need this, right?
We have to buy it.
Yeah. And if you want to remove it, that costs.
right, and you have to have certain things in order to remove it.
Right.
Because I'm like, if I'm not having a kid and I'm not having this, then why do I need all this? Which there are other things that go along with that. You can't just remove it because there's thyroid issues, there's hormonal issues, there's other chemical imbalances that happen when you do remove and have a hysterectomy. So it's not all about let's just take everything out, because there are consequences with that.
For sure.
And, you know, it's these conversations aren't talked about, though. So that's the part where TJ and I both, the reason we are doing this podcast is to open up the forum for people to have this narrative.
Yeah.
You have to change the narrative. You're not going to change the narrative unless you have bold individual people that have the courage to come out and speak about this, because, okay, is it easy to talk about sex? No. Is it easy to talk about vagina? No. Is it easy to talk about transgender and other sexualities?
But it's like, but why not?
But why not?
Yeah, why not?
It shouldn't
They're
be
human,
an
right?
issue.
We're human. Everybody's
We're human
human.
beings.
Yeah.
And so my whole thing is changing the narrative on why does it have to be so culturally exonerated to you have to be this particular person.
Yeah.
Just like when we mark the boxes for financial aid.
Don't
Don't get me started.
Or the census.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
Who made the boxes?
There's 20 million different nationalities. So when I turned 18, my sister and them were like, well, you're white. I'm like, no, technically we're not. We're Mediterranean. We're Italian, Portuguese, and Yugoslavian. I'm not white at the end of the day. And so who made those boxes?
People gave us titles. People gave us names.
Right.
Which is why when people talk about liberation for anybody and they're like, well, that identity is wrong, or that religion is wrong, or that way of thinking is wrong, it's like, by whose standards? Because all of these things, somebody decided this was a cup, right? And when we were born, we just knew it was the cup. But at the end of the day, somebody decided that this was a cup. And then somebody decided that we were going to either hate cups or love cups. And based on when we were born, we were taught that as a society, we hate cups.
Right. So we
and
would
that's
hate
just
cups.
it. But nobody was there when the person said, "This is a cup. We hate cups." And now everybody doesn't want to be a cup.
Right.
It's literally down to that very simple way of living. This is a chair. Who named it a chair?
Right. This is a table.
And at
Who
some
named it the
point,
table?
somebody said, "Well, chairs are stupid." But now we all have chairs.
Right.
Right.
So if we created an Instagram page that influenced people to say, okay, no, this is what you're going to like today.
Yeah.
And they've had the narrative before we were born and our elders were born.
Yes.
That this is what you have to do because this is what we were taught.
Yes.
That's why we're trying to rewind, and we shouldn't even rewind, period. We just have to move forward.
And it's interesting because with all this technology, you would think people would realize that a lot of the things that we believe are lies. But
Absolutely.
No. And the history is there. First of all, shout out to all of Gen Z because they be pulling facts. I just saw 2 days ago, and what today's date is
25th.
September 25th, 2022. 2 days ago. Did you all know that the first electric car was made in 1908?
Had no clue.
Yes. I did not know the year that it was made, but I remember them talking about, most people don't know that.
I don't know that. I didn't know that. I'm thinking electric cars,
but,
getting
Tesla.
charged up,
Right.
is a new
Hybrid.
thing. No. Cars were charging until the gasoline industry said, well, let's partner and make all the cars based on oil so that we can make money with this resource that we're draining from other places. It is so sick. I instantly got upset. I'm like, I don't even know who to be upset with, But for some reason, I'm upset.
And it's the same with the woman's body.
Absolutely.
Again, they're like, she can flow for 7 days and go buy 20 boxes of tampons.
And, you know, for Native American folks, when folks were on their period, it was a very sacred moment.
Absolutely.
It was a powerful moment. When in African indigenous cultures, when women identified folks would get their period, it was ceremonial.
Right.
But in this capitalistic American society, if you have a period, you're gross, disgusting, you're stinky, you're smelly, you're bloody, you're these very negative things.
Right.
But yet, for some reason, people still actively want to have sex with you.
Mm-hmm.
People will pressure you into having children. But nobody is saying, like, wow, are you comfortable with your body? Is your body working for you? How are you in relationship with your body? Do you love yourself? Are you kind to yourself? Have you asked questions about your body? And this is just for anybody. Like,
absolutely.
I think people think, like, oh my gosh, well, that's only for women-identified people. No, we should be asking everybody, like, how's your relationship with your body? Like, are you treating it well? Is it treating you well back?
Right.
Like, because let me tell you, my aunt would say this all the time when I'm here. She was like, girl, one day all this shit gonna fall to the ground.
It's all
You
gonna
better
fall
pop out. She was like, them breasts gonna fall, that ass gonna fall,
out.
these knees not gonna work no more. You're not gonna be wearing them heels. She was like, all this gonna fall, them cheekbones gonna fall. Every she would tell me, she was like, girl, all's gonna fall one day.
Fall.
She was like, you better get in love with yourself and you better own your body very quickly.
Regardless of shape, size,
everything is going to fall, and we all are going to be looking at each other like, I cannot believe
what just happened.
And that's if you're granted the ability to age, because none of us know our time.
No.
And that's if you get the ability to age.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself, the precious thing in life is that we don't know if we're going to live till tomorrow.
We don't.
And that is, to me, that more people need to respect that more than anything, because on a daily basis, we are blessed to wake up the next morning and be breathing.
Absolutely.
And I think with everything that we currently have going on today, we've wanted to change the shift to let people know that these things are out there, and if someone needs to talk to other people at the end of the day, like, it's okay to talk about problems. It's okay to talk about unnormal body deformities. It's okay to be different. And it shouldn't even be labeled as different. It's just because you are who you are, period. So find who you are, love who you are. The more you love who you are, the more comfortable you are in your own skin. Like, you can walk around naked in your own home. You could do whatever you want, and people think you're crazy. But at the end of the day, it's like, love who you are. That
Absolutely.
You were magnificently made for a purpose and designed to do what you're doing today.
Period.
At the end of the day. And you have to own that. And self-worth, self-love, it's even hard to have that when you're having all these female issues going on at the end of the day, because society has taught us not to love ourselves.
Of course.
And I think that with your documentary too, it's like, it just made women feel so much more comfortable. Like, I am not the only one.
The hugging, the tears, the release. First of all, I remember one of the things I like to do with every tour stop is have and celebrate local young talent. Because if I have a platform, and I've always been this way, which I know when I become a multimillionaire, I'm going to have to be very careful, because my heart is incredibly big, and one of the things that I live by, my mantras, is to not let black dreams die. Like, that is
absolutely
my deep embedded mantra. And so anytime I have the ability to give somebody a space or a platform that's going to help advance them, I'm like aggressive with the shit. I'm like, I am all about it. And so I had a young youth group perform. Their majorette team here locally in Sacramento open up the premiere. And for me, that was really important. So all of their parents came. And so they were emotional, right? Because you see your babies perform at a film premiere, and then you see the movie, and you're like, oh my God, me too, right? And then we raised money for them. They ended up making $1,000 that night, and they weren't charging. So I was like, you're not doing this for free. I remember being that person thinking that you just dance for free. No, like, this is a talent. Not everybody can dance like this.
Know your worth at the end of the day.
But I have to show you what that looks like.
Right, because they don't know any better.
You don't know, because it's all this talent in various communities where people, you think that clapping for you, right, is the compensation, and it's like, no, people don't know how to do that thing that you do. And so let me show you, by modeling to you, what it means to showcase your talent with me, and let me show you what value looks like. So that way you know how you get comfortable with charging, and you get comfortable with monetizing the gift that nobody else has.
Absolutely.
The other thing that was really important to me is letting people know that it was okay to cry. Like, it's okay to release. It's okay to own. It's okay to be like, wow, I made various mistakes with my body. Or let me give you terminology in the hospital. For example, the hormonal specialist in the hospital is called an endocrinologist. People don't know that you can ask to be referred to an endocrinologist to check your hormones.
Right.
People don't know that. The goal in this life is to always get your lab work done. Always. Your lab work can change day to day, week to week. They can find so much stuff by lab work. But that can be very scary, right? And that's also a very privileged thing to say from someone who knows that without insurance, how do you get lab work?
Right.
And insurance is not affordable because it's depending on all these other things that makes it really hard to do. Then we have to also talk about, too, how people who speak multiple languages get mistreated in the hospital.
Absolutely.
So if I come to you and you hear any type of, there's not even an American accent really, but if you hear any type of other type of country or dialect or, you know,
you're treated differently.
Native tongue,
absolutely,
people will think that you're stupid. So they'll hand you a paper to say, well, check these boxes to tell me what you're feeling, but I can't read the paper because I don't read English. I speak very well in my own native tongue, and if this was translated in a way, I could tell you all the things that I got, and you might be able to detect all the things. But because you're asking me if I ever had tuberculosis, girl, I don't know what that is. You know? What? I don't know what that is.
And why do I have to have tuberculosis?
And why do I have to have that? And what does it have to do with me telling you that I'm in pain?
Why I'm here right now?
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. And but talking about that, and especially with clinicians, I remember I had a tour date where I got to speak to a really large group of women that are in this very particular industry. And the vice president of a really well-known medical company came up to me and was like, I've never thought about how patients would feel with our products. And I had to like sit back and take a sip of my water. And go, what? You never thought that? And all you do is make products.
And I can vouch to that because I've had my doctor since I was 19 years old. She was on leave because she had some surgery. Not gonna lie, I don't care for the other OBGYN. Never have. Bedside manner is horrible. I've had cervical issues, and she kept demanding me get a product, which was an IUD.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of pressure around
like,
that.
It was a sales call.
Oh yeah.
And so also, if I'm a doctor, let me check your chart out before I have a friendship conversation with you, because I remember it vividly. She talked to me, oh, well, you know, you should just get an IUD, and it was IUD, and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. I will wait for Dr. McMillan to come back, and, you know, yeah, hormones are hard, and yeah, you're going through the change, and hi, I'm clean and sober, just celebrated it on the 18th of, I have 18 years clean and sober, and this doctor tells me, oh, you know, and occasionally just have a glass of wine. What?
No, these are honest referrals. This is what they tell you.
And so at the end of the day, in my mind, because I'm an advocate for other people that have more abuse in regards to drugs and alcohol, and some people's cases are worse than mine, but if you went home and said, well, my doctor said it was okay for me to have a glass of wine.
We don't know what that could do.
We don't know what that could do. So I did tell my doctor later on, because I said, I have never in 30 years ever felt like I needed to be sold an IUD. And I said, and the fact that she told me, acted as if a best friend, just have a glass of wine, it's going to fix everything. You need to think about other patients that have other issues besides me.
Well, let's not even get into, I mean,
and you don't know how we feel?
You didn't ask, and I really hate, because this was an underlying theme that I was like, oh my God, table flip. We just need to lose weight. Oh, Dana,
Everybody has to lose weight. We're all obese. We're all obese.
I get so upset about that.
You're just fat.
First of all, it's fat phobic as hell, right? Like, we're not shaming people for
it's
their
abusive.
body. It is. And, how are you going to tell me to lose weight when this entire body mass index is based on, you know, very slender white bodies that are appealing to the white male gaze? let's be very honest, right? It's not in support of curves, hips, culture.
Never has been.
It never has been. It's not supportive of other bodies. It's just not. And so when we get into, well, based on this chart, you're obese or you're pre-obese, and it's like those words.
You're pre-diabetic.
You're pre-diabetic. I'm like, help me. Like, what? Why would you diagnose me with that and then give me a pill? Help me.
Right.
Help me. And let's, for example, as an African identified person, hips, ass, boobs, that's in our DNA.
Absolutely.
That's in our, as you see, our producer is all about it.
Yes.
It's in our DNA. Why would I go to someone and tell me that's going to tell me I need to lose all that, but there's a massive industry that is helping people produce that on their bodies that's not natural, right? And I'm not talking about people that desire to adjust their body to make them feel good. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about there is an industry that will literally say, you are not beautiful unless you go get hips and ass. So go get that. But for folks that have hips and ass, you're not beautiful.
Right. You have too much of it.
It's completely weird.
It's
just like, oh, go lose weight. But then we see these Carl's Jr.'s commercials talking about the triple double bacon burger with an extra large fry and a super extra large Diet Coke.
And a side of onion rings.
And this skinny girl is like tearing up the sandwich.
Absolutely.
But right after that, there'll be a commercial for Kaiser Permanente's plant-based organic 6-week trial. I'm like, y'all, the math ain't mathing. Y'all are sick.
It doesn't match.
That's why I'm over cable. But it's ridiculous. Like, it's just really crazy. And I want people to think for themselves. And I'm sure I'm late to the game and thinking for myself. I got there really in my late 20s. But when you start having conversations like this, I think people start to realize, like, you know what?
Right.
Matter of fact, you know those light bulb moments when you're like, ding, ding. Yeah, that's
aha moments. When you're just sitting there going, okay, I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
Because everybody wants to say we're crazy. And even,
it's like, what is crazy?
Even hormonally, I mean, TJ and I have filmed a couple times where the dogs I'd had enough. And there's like real talk, like there are moments where like a woman has that rage because the hormones are just literally going crazy, and TJ would be like, okay, I better go move the dogs. She's not ready to strangle them, and we got to get this together because she's going to lose her shit.
Right.
And you still function, go to work. Hot flash is so bad when it's like 20 degrees outside that I literally can come out of the shower, put a towel on, and just sit out here to cool off. Put an ice pack on my chest, put an ice pack on my neck to cool off. Like, it is no joke.
And people are not honest about that. And, you know, it took me 12 years to be able to finally get approved for hysterectomy. And so I'm finally approved for one. And I literally, like, Millie rocked on the way home. I was like, hell yeah. And my doctor was like, you know, I've never seen a person excited about that. I was like, oh, do you know what it's like to struggle for 12 years with people telling you, like, you're too young, you haven't had children, how would you know? And she finally broke the fourth wall and told me why people get denied. Are you ready for this?
I'm probably not.
Are you ready for this? She told me that my previous doctor was protecting me. I said, from
what?
What? She said if she would have approved me for a hysterectomy at 23, they would have forced me into a psychological clinical trial, because there is no way that in my right mind I would deny my God-given right and ability to birth children. And they would have to convince the insurance broker that is attached to the hospital and the lawyers
because
that
I
are
was afraid
on
that
the
you would
hospital
sue later
board,
saying I was mentally not capable of making that decision at that
because
time.
I denied birth control, which means I say I want a hysterectomy, but I didn't use preventative care to not get pregnant. So I would need a psychological analysis as a protectant to the hospital. And so while the bias was there, she really was protecting me from these next round of things that were going to happen for me to get a hysterectomy. In the event that I turn around and say that they gave me one unlawful, they would be like, nope, based on this psychological analysis, X, Y, and Z.
And so at the end of the day, that's what I want people to know. Behind every situation and decision, there is a law and another law and another law and another department and another department.
Because nobody wants to get sued.
Because nobody wants to get sued. Mm-hmm. So how is it that we have the freedom of choice to do what we want with our body because of laws that are made by some that are not even medical professionals, nor attorneys at the end of the day?
They just have money.
Making choices of what any human being can do with their body. And so I myself have completely, like you said, advocacy. People do not know what advocacy is. So a lot of people don't know when you go to the hospital or you go to your doctors, you can tell them, I want someone to be with me today to be my advocate. And it could be someone that's more educated. I had the opportunity, my dear friend Ruth, who just passed away, she's a medical genius and an attorney that I absolutely incredibly adore. There were plenty of times when, like you said, you get all these big terminologies where you're like, I don't know what that is. Like, can you explain it to me in English? Because what did you just say to me?
Right.
You think you have every disease in the world and your whole body's just going to shut down in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it feels like,
So at the end of the day, if you're nervous about going to the doctors, getting tests done, have a person go with you. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not feel normal. And what is normal to everybody at the end of the day? There is no normalcy. No one gave us a book to say, this is what a normal life is. This is how you're going to live your life today.
Right.
But know that there are laws behind every decision that you make that if you're going, that doesn't sound right, look into it.
It's
dig
probably
deeper.
not right.
Dig deeper. Go deeper. If you don't like what that attorney says, just because they have a label or a letter after their name, you have every right to educate yourself however you want to educate. Pick up a book and read it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was excited about doing on tour, was being able to take this film into medical spaces and talk about bias and talk about harm and talk about treatment and talk about, people call it cultural humility, people call it diversity training. I hate both of those. I'm just like,
Change the
humanity. We're just talking about humans. Like, human beings. Like, let's just talk about genuine respect for human beings and that are coming to you for healing.
Absolutely.
That's what they're really, and it's very vulnerable for someone to, plain as fact, to go to a website, look up a doctor, look at all these check marks, go to their schedule, click the thing, because they're never available same day, click the thing, 6 weeks out, pick 30 minutes, ask their supervisor for time off, go to the doctor to be treated poorly for 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
Get assigned a prescription and say, hope all is well. That is mentally exhausting. And I don't know if clinicians, because I know they have their own weighted down things that they have to make sure they don't lose their license, understand that every single person that you are seeing has intentionally planned to be there, and we don't know what they had to maneuver around just to make it in time for this 20-minute window.
And the other thing that I want people to be completely aware of is, and I never thought of it this way, because like you brought up the white jacket and the person,
it's very intimidating.
It's like, oh, you think that these people are the medical gods at the end of the day. I want everyone to know, and I did not know this, and I know this today because of Ruth, because she was an ICU nurse, and then she went into a profession in the data entry and all of the technical part with our health industry that saves our most important information. But she had made me realize, and I never knew this, hospitals are teaching institutions. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
You come across some amazing doctors, but at the end of the day, every hospital is teaching a new doctor, a new nurse.
Every day.
And it's an everyday thing that people are like, I'm going to the hospital because I'm going to be treated. You better hope you're treated and not massacred at the end of the day, because that happens too. So I don't want people to conglomerate hospitals at the end of the day. And that crow, I don't know what's going on with that.
They got a lot to say too.
He's agreeing with you.
It's probably an ancestor saying, yep, that's right. That's right.
Word.
Speak
on it. Speak on it.
Yeah. I'm trying to tell you.
So at the end of the day, just truly, like, I mean, I'm honored that you're here today because you get it. you get it at a very young age. And so if we continue to grow and let other younger individuals speak their mind, live their power, be who they are, know who they are, that is the most important thing, that you have to have self-worth and self-love. If you didn't develop into who you were today and go through some of that painful situation and go through some of the trauma, you would have never been able to do what you're doing today, which I know in my heart, you're going to touch millions and thousands of individuals at the end of the day. I'm putting that on you now because I know that it's coming.
Thank you.
And I myself have been able to empower other women, not even knowing I was empowering other women, because I have a gift at the end of the day.
We all do.
And that's another reason why we started doing this, because people are like, Dana, man, you're funny, you're this, you're that. And then leaving the church and parents coming up to me, oh my God, you did this for our kid, you did this, and we were going through divorce, and you don't know who or what. And as I've been taught by some amazing mentors, it's not about the masses. It's one person's life that you can change.
Yeah, it's true.
And then the masses, it develops because of that one change, and that person telling that one person and the next person telling the other person. But transparency.
Yeah, and and I feel like it's really hard to be vulnerable and transparent in spaces where it's not safe to do that. For example, work. Work is different for everybody. Some people, it takes a lot to not want to strangle their boss every day. It takes a lot to not want to poison their colleague. Like, let's be honest. You be looking at your colleague like, I swear to God, I would put rat poison in that sandwich. There's people when they go home, it's like,
I'm going to poison my husband tonight.
Right. I'm going to sit in the car for an hour before I go inside because it's a lot of stress. So I also want to take that into effect too, like, depending on where you navigate and what that looks like for you, life is going to be different. But much like you're saying, like, even on your worst day, you have no idea who you've empowered just by being yourself,
right?
Just by executing the things that you think you should do, just by showing up,
right?
Just by saying hello, or just by putting up a boundary. And we may get to see all those things, we may not. There are people that I'm sure you and I have lost that have specifically touched our lives and have empowered us to be exactly who we are today. Susan Edmonds Williams, the person that told me about fibroids, died from uterine challenges. 3 babies, fibroids were terrible for her. And she was a nurse, right? Who was treated terribly in the hospital. Absolutely. A nurse. And you hear about clinicians when they're the patient, they pass away. And it's like, what? Oh, because it's a systems issue, right? It's a systems issue. So you just never know. So I just want to encourage everybody that's out there, no matter who you are, how you identify, how you celebrate life, your gut feeling, that feeling that you have at all times, that guiding light that is there to guide you at all times and protect you and to warn you and to keep you safe, that inspires you to be better, or that gives you that visionary insight of what you're supposed to be doing. Trust that thing. Trust that thing. And nobody else can tell you how to work that thing.
Absolutely.
Nobody, right? Because that is your guiding light that's inside of you, because we're all brilliant enough to be able to navigate this life in our own light, and if anybody is trying to dim that, adjust that, break that, make, chisel at it, you should really be able to look at that and be like, that person either is very jealous of that light, or that person hasn't found their own light. And so that's a very dangerous...
It's a very dangerous spot to be.
Yeah.
And so when people are trying to dim your light, because they will, there was a very powerful speaker that I heard a long time ago, put your shades on.
Yeah.
If I'm too bright for you, put your shades on.
And feel okay to...
And feel okay to say that.
Yeah.
Feel empowered to own your power.
Yeah.
Like, don't let other people dim your light at the end of the day, because you're going to get the no's, you're going to get the, I don't really think that that's possible. There is a reason for everything. And, like, doors have opened for me that I was like, okay, wait, that didn't just happen. I mean, I publicly spoke for 10 years on sex trafficking. At the end of the day, did I ever think that I was going to do that? No, but the learning capability and the doors that it opened for me, let alone it created a healthier lifestyle for me, because I was a victim of rape, and, I had to heal through some of that. And the best healing process was the fact that I had to recognize that other people had it worse than I did.
Yeah.
And so don't let others dim your light at the end of the day, because they will. And there are haters. There are just haters out there that are going to dislike you. I mean, him and I started out our very first podcast. I'm like, you don't have to like me. You can hit dislike. You can...
Right, you don't have to follow my page.
You don't have to follow my page.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to subscribe.
No,
you don't have to subscribe.
And the good thing is if you really hate us and say awful things, we just hit delete.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of time to be able to put something negative on somebody's page.
And why have that energy at the end of the day? And we know that. And I think owning that, when you are able to just really be who you are, it's an amazing place to be, because
people gonna talk shit every day.
Just flows. It just automatically flows. It's natural. Just like for him and I, TJ and I, it's like when we do our podcast, just like we are right now. This is who we are.
Yeah.
Love it, leave it, dislike it. This is who we are.
Yeah. Nobody. I don't want to say even as you get older, because I know some teenagers right now that will set it straight. They will set it off and set it straight. So I want to be honest about it's not an age thing, but I do feel like when you know who you are, and I feel like that's always an underlying theme in like these superhero movies,
right,
or like these encouraging like TED Talks. They're always like, when you know who you are, when you know exactly what that it is that you're supposed to execute, you become untouchable. And people hate when they can't control people that are untouchable.
Oh, being untouchable is... It's like there's no word for it, because you can't even explain to people what that power gives you, is being untouchable. It's almost unnatural, because it's like you're like, it just happens, everything just flows, and they're like, why is this all happening for them? It didn't just happen. We grew through some painful situations and trauma that built us up to this time as such it is right now.
Yeah.
And so I think people need to realize that if you work hard and you, like you said, you have that burning desire in your heart, do just that.
Mm-hmm.
Do just that, because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Ask the tough questions. You know, one of the things that people always hear me say is do it afraid. And I got that from Steve Harvey, because it's true. Like, new things are scary.
Absolutely.
I don't know why they're scary.
Right.
But it's probably because the first time when you're thinking for yourself and you're acting on that, and you don't need anybody else's yes to confirm your yes. And for some people, if you've been controlled all your life,
right,
you activating on just your yes is scary to you. But it's really you liberating yourself, and you realize you know how to walk, and you know how to run, and you know how to shake shit up, and but it's still about doing it. And when I mean do it afraid, I mean send the email. I mean click submit. I mean ask the question. I mean sign up for that local talent show. I mean buy the outfit. That means cut the hair. I mean, that's what I mean by do it afraid. Not it has to be like this big, gargantuan ass decision.
Or
like,
ask the reason, why is it a no?
Yeah.
Be open to learning why is it a no, so that you can grow and make that opportunity into a better opportunity. So don't be afraid, like you said, okay, this person has a degree, they have this, they have that, they have this, they have money. Subtract that. None of that matters at the end of the day. Be open to conglomerating with people that share your same space, that want to see you grow.
Yeah.
And you'll get situations where you're going to go, okay, yeah, that's not for me at the end of the day. And listen to that.
Yes, as early as you can.
As early as possible as you can, because developing that situation for you to know that's not the road I'm going down, that's not the direction I'm going down, and also be aware of people taking your power, because people will use you.
True.
And so own that too. Like, if you know that this is what I'm stemming this situation from, these are my goals, this is what our outlook looks like, 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. Nope, you're not a part of this. There's not a 4, 5, and 6. Own that. And if you know that that's how you want to have your company or your business be, you're in control of all that. You're the VP of your life at the end of the day. And so I think it's important is don't let other individuals in stop what you're doing because they think they have something better. Mm-hmm. Because what is on the other side, if it's conglomerate and money and big and this and that, you've started all this at the foundation of the base of what you wanted at the end of the day. And others come as they're supposed to come. And I just think that it's important for you to keep it as real as the narrative needs to be for yourself, because that's what you wanted from the beginning. So when it's natural, pure, and where it's supposed to be, it just automatically happens.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our own agency,
Yep.
and people don't tell you that. People tell you you'll need other people to confirm what's right, and you don't, right? You are your own agent of your entire life. We all have our own power in a lot of things. People will say that you need, and let's be honest, credentials just means you have a lot of practice. Right?
Anybody can start a job anywhere, and you can teach them to do it. You don't have to have a degree.
When you let people and you're like, nah, I want so-and-so to cut my hair because they know what they're doing. Practice. Oh, I want so-and-so to cook because they practice. This person is the best surgeon. Practice. It's all practice. But one day they woke up and said, you know what, I'm going to give this thing a try. Right. And they didn't know that they were going to be good at it until they tried it. And I'm telling you, everybody has a first day. That first day is scary for everybody.
Oh.
And people are not honest about that. I'm going to tell you right now, anytime I'm trying something new or different or big, it is definitely a day where I'm like, is it coffee, wine, or champagne? Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, because it's overwhelming, that feeling, because you want it so bad.
Right.
But don't run from that. Like, just own it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling like an imposter today. I am really scared about that. I don't know what this will look like or where it will take me. But yet, I'm still going to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I love podcasts. I feel like I could talk all day.
We could talk all day.
I think
we would be able to talk all day.
We could talk all day.
They're like, when are they going to stop?
Because we're genuine friends.
Right.
So it's like,
It's just genuine. So what would you like our next topic to be? Who knows? We ask this all the time. You probably didn't think we were going to talk about women's issues or vaginas or your insides falling out. I mean, at the end of the day, again, we're doing the podcast just to be real, honest, open people at the end of the day. And these are conversations that need to be heard and they need to be talked about. I really hope that you guys truly enjoyed our podcast today. This was an honor and blessing to have such an amazing, incredible women today. I just love her, and watching her grow has been a joy in my heart, because I know circumstances that you've had to go through have been very challenging.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have succeeded and empowered yourself to be the woman that you are today. So I'm so happy to know that you've enjoyed that. I am so happy that you've empowered yourself and loved yourself enough to get through the pain and trauma to be who you truly are today, because it's not easy. I've had to experience those things on my own. Owning who you are it's a huge thing, and it's an ongoing thing, because we grow on a daily basis. And so don't be so hard on yourself either. Like, be open and willing to love and grow on a daily basis. There's challenges and changes on a daily, but be open to that.
Yeah.
Just be open to the change. And so many people are, like you said, they're afraid or they're fearful. Own that feeling, own that fear, own that afraidness at the end of the day, because it's okay to feel. So many people are not used to feeling. And so, I really just want to say thank you. We appreciate all the support. And I know we'll probably have you on here again with the next documentary that you're going to be putting out. Know it's coming. Maybe you'll be in it.
Hey.
But again, thank you, everyone, and have a blessed Sunday. And action. So yeah, when you are doing a podcast with a short girl, this is what happens.